Hey guys, what is going on? Today we're talking beginner drone tips. This is for people who are first-time flyers who've never flown a drone before, or those of you who just started flying. There is a lot of information in here, and I've set it up in a way where if you go from step one to the last step, you'll become a very successful pilot pretty quickly. So guys, no chit chat today. Let's just get right into it. A lot of these tips may seem super obvious, but I'm sure there's plenty of you out there who are new to drones in general. I know the first time that I got a drone, I got the Phantom 2. I had no idea what I was doing, and that was way different than what you're getting nowadays. So with the Spark or the Mavic, you're gonna get a drone that's pretty much ready to go. With the Phantom 2, I had to actually put the gimbal on and build it and all that, and it was with the Mavic and Spark, you should be able to start flying and get some awesome shots. So let's go over the 20 things that I think you need to do as a first-time flyer or beginner flyer. Okay, number one is very basic, but a lot of people don't realize this. You need to take the stickers off every sensor. You need to take the gimbal guard off the front of the gimbal, and then there's usually a clamp on the gimbal itself. So you need to take all the pieces off so that your gimbal completely is free. If your gimbal's not rotating freely, then you don't have the gimbal clamp off. And you need to go through and just look at your drone. So flip it over, turn it around, look at all the different sensors. If there's a sticker on it, take it off. There's not supposed to be stickers on any of that. Also, go to your phone and download DJI's app. You have to have the app to fly, and you need to have your drone set up ready to go. So that goes into number two, and that is update your firmware on both your drone and the app to the newest firmware and software. Okay, before you go out into the wild and start shooting, you need to check that your drone will connect to the controller. And when I do this, I take the propellers off because as a first-time flyer, you don't want to accidentally hit the sticks in the wrong direction, take off and crash in your house. What you want to do is take the propellers off, have it sit there, and make sure that you're connected. Make sure that everything boots up properly and that your controller and your software on your phone connect to your drone and you can see the image on your phone. So with this is number four, which is do not fly indoors. I know you're gonna be very anxious to go fly. You just got a drone, you're ready to do this, but I've seen so many videos on YouTube where people fly because it's dark out and they just got their drone or it's raining or something like that. What happens is people take off in their house and the drone will take off and hit your TV, it'll hit your wife, it'll hit your kids, it'll run into the Christmas tree, whatever it is that's in the house, it's most likely gonna hit it, it's gonna break your drone and it's gonna cause some damage. Okay, number five goes along with this. If the weather is bad, if there's any conditions why you cannot go outside and fly, don't fly indoors. I know it sucks. I know you want to go fly. There are so many times that I want to go out there and fly, but I definitely restrict myself from flying for different reasons because you want to make sure that you have successful flights. If the weather's bad, if there's any sort of conditions that are going to ground you, don't fly. Number six, this may seem super basic, but charge your phone, charge the controller, and charge all the batteries for your drone. The last thing you want to do is get out there and have something at 2% and then you can't fly. Okay, number seven is another one before you even leave the house. You need to understand the FAA rules if you're here in the US. There are specific rules and just being ignorant to the rules doesn't give you a pass on the rules. If you break the rules, there's going to be issues and there's going to be consequences. Okay, number eight. It's a clear day, you're ready to go fly, so go outside and fly. But don't just go fly right outside your house. If you're in like a very busy metropolitan area or there's just not a lot of clearance, you need to go find somewhere with a big open space to fly. You might have to drive a little bit of a distance to get there. You might have to take a few hours to get to a space like this, but you want to find a space that is big and open and there's no consequences. It's the first few times you're flying. You just want to learn the drone without having to worry about things around you. So when you're finding those big open spaces, just make sure it's not a restricted area. So this goes back to the FAA rules, which basically says don't fly in certain areas. So there's certain airspaces, there's certain restricted areas that are off limits, and you need to know about these areas before you go fly. So things like national parks, completely off limits. Wilderness areas, off limits. You know, anywhere in like class A, B, C, D airspace, you know, all the airspaces except for G are off limits unless you have a flight plan, which you're not going to the first time flyer. You need to find class G airspace, which is uncontrolled airspace, and you need to have an area that's big and open and nowhere in a restricted zone. Do your research, figure out what areas are around you. There's different apps that show you where restricted airspaces are. Even the DJI app won't allow you to take off in restricted airspace. So just be aware of where you're at and what kind of airspace is around you. Okay, number 10, this is before you go out to that field. Make sure you have a memory card, stick it in, make sure it works. So do a recording at home. The last thing you want is to get out, you're flying, you want to record something, you want to start testing this out, and you don't have a memory card. Trust me, I've forgotten my memory card. It will happen to the best of us. Just don't forget your memory card and make sure it works. All right, so you're out in a big open field. There's no restrictions, nothing whatsoever. We are on tip number 11, and this is pull the drone out, connect everything, but then first reset your IMU and your gyro. This is for if you're the first time flying and you've never flown before. You basically just want to make sure that everything is set up properly. You don't have to reset your IMU all the time. You only need to really do this at the beginning just to make sure everything is set up. And then your gyro, you might have to reset that every once in a while. So it's just something to do the first time you're flying. From there, just reset your gyro once in a while just to make sure things are good. All right, you're ready to fly. Everything is squared away. You're ready to go. The gyro's set up. Good things. Everything is awesome. So now turn on your drone, but you gotta wait for the GPS to engage. So let it sit there, let it register, and you have to wait till that GPS clicks on and shows your home point where you are exactly. All right, if you start flying before the GPS registers, it may stick your home point somewhere way far away, maybe even back in the factory, who knows? And the drone might just take off and go that way when it says return to home. So you need to let your GPS reset so you knows exactly where you're at. And you're right here, this is where your GPS is, it's where your drone is. So that if anything happens, your return home works properly. Okay, so this is something I do whenever I go somewhere new. This is, if there's any issues, this is where you'll start to see them pop out. But take your drone off and let it hover for like 20, 30 seconds. Just let it sit there. If there's any issues with your drone, it's gonna come out right then and there. If there's any issues with the GPS connecting and keeping it where it's at, you're gonna notice it right then and there. So number 13 is take your drone off, let it hover, let your hands off the controls, just let it sit there and make sure everything is functioning properly. Okay, now that your drone's hovering, take it back down and land it. I know this may seem a little redundant, taking off landing, but you wanna make sure that everything works properly. So you did your pre-flight, everything's set up on the front end. You take off, everything's working in the air. Now land it, make sure everything still works. Okay, now everything is set up, everything works, you're good to go. Now let's start flying. Okay, so tip number 15, now that you're flying, get it up in the air and just start flying around playing with the controls, but always keep it in line of sight. You don't wanna fly behind a building, behind a tree, out way too far a mile that way, because you're new to drones. So you need to understand that this is a complex piece of equipment. So just fly it with line of sight. Just hover around, watch the drone. Don't be looking at your screen because you want to know how your drone flies and how you can control the drone using the controller. Okay, number 16 goes right along with that. Just play with each thumb controller, each direction, so you know what everything does in the air. Play with your camera going up and down, do all that stuff and figure out what everything does. Don't go try and get some crazy shot right away. Just play with it. Just make sure you know how your thumbs work and how that controls, the drone up in the air. Now, number 17, fly a little bit of distance away. Keep it in line of sight still. Hit that return to home button and see what happens. You have to understand how return to home works so that if you're in an emergency situation down the road, you know what's going to happen when you hit that return to home button. And you got to make sure that everything works properly and you know what's going on there. Now that your drone has come back, it's returned, it's landed, it's shut off, because that's what's going to happen when you return to home. Get the drone back up in the air, just keep playing with it. Now let's play with photography. So flip it into photo mode and just start snapping off shots. It doesn't matter if they're good, it doesn't matter if they're super exciting. Play with different angles, see how you can position the camera to take different types of photos. Go into your menu settings and play with all the photo settings. Just play. It doesn't matter how good these photos are. You want to understand everything about the photo side of your drone before you are in a situation where you want to get good photos. Okay, so number 19 just follows right along with that, is flip it into video mode and do the exact same thing. Play with all the video modes, play with how you fly and you shoot. Just start making movements with your joysticks and shooting and see how the results come out. The best way to learn how to fly a drone is to play with a drone and fly. So just play and fly and shoot and see what happens. Okay, and my last tip for beginner flyers, this is number 20, is just run through all your batteries this first time you're flying. First few times flying, just run through your batteries. Obviously, don't let them get to zero. Make sure you bring your drone back before it hits 30%. Give yourself a little bit of cushion there. But what I mean is just be out there and play and practice, because the best way to get good at flying a drone is to practice, practice, and practice some more. So what you need to do is just go out there, run through batteries, try all your settings, and just learn everything about your drone. After a few times of doing this, you're going to become very good at flying a drone, and then you get into a situation where you want to get awesome shots. You're going to know exactly how to do it, and you're going to know exactly how to fly to get specific shots. So from here, you just start working on your skills as a drone pilot and figure out if you want to be a photographer, video, what it is that you want to do with drones so that you can start practicing and get more skilled at it. All right, guys, I hope that was helpful. I hope these 20 tips will help you become a better flyer very quickly. These are the kinds of things you need to start with. Like I said, it's all about practice. Guys, if you haven't already, make sure you hit that subscribe button on our channel. I've got a ton of drone tutorials on the channel, along with some other filmmaking and photography. And there's a ton of information on, how to become a better flyer and really get those awesome, epic shots. If you haven't already, make sure you find us on Instagram @Wanderworks, and I will see you on the next one.